Oh shit, it does. Oh, there we go, dude. Oh shit, it does it for me. Big dick ban. Big dick ban. Ah, fuck you, dude.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Chats E3 Studios live stream. Today, we have Mark here helping us learn more about the future of sales and marketing and how it's all going to come together with the brilliant innovations of technology. I'm Eilidh of E3 Studios. I'm sure you all know by now what I do. I help you build incredible websites. Over to you, Mark.
Wow. That intro video was very cool. I have to say, like the music, I'm standing there, I'm like shaking my leg, tapping my foot. So I'm hoping it's got me warmed up. It's got me in the, give me a good vibe. Yeah, no, thanks so much for having me. Yeah, I mean, do you want me to maybe I can say a little bit about myself if you want?
Yes. Introduce yourself, tell us what you do, and then we can dive into some of the talking points that we've got prepared.
All right, awesome. So my name is Mark Bangs. I am a sales coach, a growth strategist for SMEs. I'm also the host of an upcoming podcast I'm launching in July called the Bang on Sales Show. I've been told for quite a long time I should capitalize on my name, so I thought I would. So yeah, the Bang on Sales Show. What can I say really? I mean, I've been in sales. I'll give you the sort of the quick cap version of this. So I've been in sales for about 16, 17 years. I've worked at all stages of the sales cycle. I way back when I cut my teeth in boiler room telemarketing, hard environments, selling all sorts, 20, 30, 40 people crammed into a rented office space, just hitting the phones. Here's a yellow pages and a phone. Now go and make it happen. It wasn't until a few years into this that I actually realized there was a career path and such a thing as a sales profession that could be done with integrity, and treated as a craft that can be improved upon over time. That's before I went down the rabbit hole of all the tech enablement and all of that stuff many years before that. So, fast forward several years later, I was working for businesses predominantly in tech broadly, so IT managed service providers, hardware distribution, SaaS, a little bit of SaaS software, and so I was managing sort of key corporate, like enterprise accounts. So I had some really good exposure as well as at the bottom end of the market, also the top end. Talking to many different stakeholders at billion-pound organizations and so on. So yeah, good variety of experience. And the thing that I noticed time and time again, in fairness to some of the businesses I work for, not in every example, but very common, is the fact that especially in SMEs, so I work largely for companies with sort of 5 to 25 mil turnover, 10 to 50 employees, something like that. When it comes to sales, when it comes to the revenue, the business development generally, and that I include marketing in that, there's often just a serious lack of strategy, a serious lack of thought. And we'll probably get into this, but yeah, there's not really a proper go-to-market piece within a lot of businesses. It's often a case of, get a bunch of people in, stick them on the phones, 100 calls a day.
Wear them down.
Well, that's it. Yeah. And it's a very good point, wearing them down. And that's why, the average tenure of a salesperson is like 6 to 12 months these days, if you're lucky. We're not given the right, and I absolutely think that people should take ownership over their own development, for sure. That's something I did at a certain point. But I think the mistake because I did make the mistake of blaming employees for not giving me training and all of that stuff. But there is a lot of responsibility on the part of employers, of sales organizations, where they're not given the proper enablement, and not given the training, the onboarding, the tools and technology that doesn't have to be ridiculously expensive. You just need to put in some work up front to align your teams, to give you, set your people up for success, so that you're not lining the pockets of recruiters every 6 months because you have to bring new people in.
Yeah.
So So anyway, this I'm just throwing my pen around, but this reached a head for me at a certain point. I was working for a business, and long story short, I got to a point where I had some difficult conversations with the leadership. Basically had to resign because I think I rocked the boat a little bit too much. I like to think I'm very polite and diplomatic, respectful of what I do, but yeah, perhaps we won't go too in depth.
Don't go too in depth.
It kind of, and it just made me think, you know what, I've spent too much time complaining about other people. Maybe it's time for me to put my money where my mouth is and take ownership of it, and just think, look, let's see if I can actually go out and help businesses with this and really develop something of my own, a framework, an approach, a methodology, which is what I've basically been working on over the last sort of 6 to 12 months, just figuring out, what is it, who's it for, and getting good to a good point now. So
cool.
Anyway.
So let's move on to our first talking point, which is applying Agile to business beyond dev and projects.
Sure. Okay.
Let's first define what Agile is for people who might not know what that term means.
Yeah. So this is one of those things that I'm still developing this idea, but so I'm very, in terms of your audience and even yourself, Eilidh, I'm very keen on getting feedback and so on, because I don't come from, as you can tell, I don't come from a development background, a project management background. So I never worked in the context of Agile. I've only, I'm going on not secondhand information, but you understand what I'm saying. So for me, Agile is it's a methodology, isn't it? It's a framework for project management. It's used predominantly in, would you say, software development? It's quite broad, isn't it, Agile, because there are different variations of it.
Yeah, there's many. Just like little spider web. You've got Agile in the middle, and then it just branches out.
Now, I'll tell you my thinking here. So Agile is used, as I say, largely in software development, and I feel like for software companies, for developers, for SaaS companies, it's a natural progression to expand that to include the rest of the business, maybe starting with the revenue teams, the sales, marketing, some operations, and expanding that outwards. Now, the reason I say this is just to sort of zoom out a little bit. Businesses are very siloed, right? And this kind of goes into our second talking point, but I think they're overlapping. Sales doesn't talk to marketing. Finance are viewed as like deal prevention because of the rules and regulations or whatever. Often you'll get clients that are signed up, deals that get put through, and then they become a nightmare operationally, a customer success nightmare, the customer or CX teams generally, because they're not a proper good fit, because there hasn't been alignment throughout that process of, even from the marketing through to like, what sales thinks is a good opportunity and a good lead, and what marketing think are two different things. And probably what the product development team think is a good user of that product, they all might not match up.
Different.
And so a business can function like that, but it's, and not to be too tangential here, but it's like, so we call it an organization, and it's like an organism, right? And I didn't come up with this, but it's an organism. And what I mean is, there's lots of little individual moving parts, the same as in our body. Some of it is central and core, like our heart, for example, but some of it isn't, right? So if you've got a dodgy spleen or a kidney or something, do you know what I mean? Like you can still live with that. Or if you've got I've got a bad knee, for example. So the business will function, but it won't function optimally. In some cases, it will over time just die a slow death because it's not functioning right. But I'm sorry, I'm being very conceptual here. But with Agile, perhaps if I give you a kind of an overview of what it could look like, and then we can kind of build out from there. So I talk about sales sprints, and I love this concept. So imagine you've got traditionally you'll have, and this is commonplace, that you'll have marketing that puts out social posts, blogs, or whatever. They do the ads and whatever, and they'll bring in leads. You'll get inbound inquiries, web inquiries on your website, whatever. They'll come through. They'll be passed over to the sales team. Here's a lead. Here's an MQL or whatever, marketing qualified lead. Sales gets that lead, and a lot of the time, I can't remember the statistics on it, but I know if you follow up on an inbound lead within like 5 minutes, the conversion rate goes, or if you don't, the conversion rate drops off very quickly.
Yeah.
Because people are busy, right? You fill in, you know how it is, like you fill in a form on a website, you want to download a guide, a white paper, whatever it is, and then a lot of
And
times,
then you never look at it again.
you never look at it, right? Yeah, it either sits in your emails and you end up just deleting it a week later, or you open it up as a tab. You might bookmark it on Chrome or whatever, but you never really do anything with it.
I mean, how many bookmarks do you have? A lot. I've got like different folders, and I swear they're in the hundreds, and I think I only visit 3 of them regularly.
Yeah, I mean, I've got about 25 tabs open as we speak. And yeah, we won't even talk about my bookmarks. Most of them I've never even looked at more than like 10 seconds. So there you go. But what happens is, and I'll probably go around the house a little bit, but hopefully I can paint a picture for you. So sales gets that lead. If you're lucky, they will follow up on it, ideally straight away, but often a lead will sit in someone's inbox for days before it even gets touched. There are stats around it, you can look them up, but sales are prejudging that, right? Because they haven't been involved in identifying the target market. Why are we going? Why has that come in as a lead? Like, is this person a good fit? Now, it's not to say that sales have a better view or understanding of the marketing, but the fact is they're not aligned. They're not working together to look at, right, what market should we go after? What's the messaging? How can
what is the actual product we're selling them? Because I've seen this a few times where the marketing's for one product, you end up phoning them or chatting with someone and they're trying to sell you something else, but you've never heard of it before, and it's because there's just not enough communication or information.
Yeah, for sure. And even stepping back further than that, how does that play into the broader objectives of the business? Like, say you've got and I mean the senior leadership, the executive team, but also product development, maybe some plans and aspirations operationally. So none of these people are involved in that, and if they are, it's in passing, right? So what I'm suggesting is that by applying Agile, if you like, or Scrum, what we're doing is we're creating, rather than having marketing, sales, customer service or success, dev teams, finance, HR, like, imagine you've got cross-functional teams instead, right? So instead of sales and marketing, you've got revenue, right? Revenue functions as a cohesive unit. They're still functionally separate and different in a lot of ways, but they are revenue, right? They work together, so that sales knows what's going to be coming from marketing, right? And they can actually play a part in that, so that you've got, for example, so I love the idea of sort of employer advocacy on social media, so encouraging your people to be active on LinkedIn a lot of the time, right? Encourage them to be content creators. There's a whole conversation to be had around that, so I don't want to be too
That's a big rabbit hole to go down.
Yeah, but marketing could be providing some of the insights, and I'll stop doing this, but marketing could be providing some of the insights and material to really help those salespeople become subject matter experts in a specific area, so that everybody has their own sort of lane, if you like, and they can align with different areas of marketing. For example, to go after a certain ideal customer profile or target a certain pain point with their messaging, right? Which can't happen if everybody's just like fiddling around. I'll do a bit of this, bit of that. They're not even structuring their day or their week properly, let alone cross-functionally as an organization. So that's revenue. And then you might have a couple of other cross-functional teams. So you might have like an operational one where you've got like the product development, and then how does that play into how those customers are cared for after that? So that's kind of the operational one. And then you might have another one that's more like finance or human resources, whatever. But the idea is that instead of like 20 thin slices, you've got maybe 3 or 4 cross-functional modules in the business or units in the business that, yes, they're bridged to each other, but they're Yeah, I think hopefully you see where
Yeah. So it's instead of having 20 people who are okay at what they do, you actually have set teams who are experts at what they do. The communication's clear, and the main thing of any relationship, any business relationship, any bit of marketing, any bit of content, any sales is communication. I know there's plenty of times where people will phone a company, they end up getting passed around and never getting the answer that they need, and then therefore you've lost that sale, or you've lost that recurring client.
Yeah.
So having your set teams to actually give you the right information at the right time is really going to greatly increase sort of your conversion rate.
Well, and not just your conversion rate at the front end, but also your ability to retain customers, to
Yeah.
upsell them, to cross-sell them, to actually have a strategy in place for upselling and cross-selling.
Yeah.
Because bear in mind, you can bring in. I mean, I work for a business where I was saying, hang on, we're so IT support company. We had like support contracts, and we weren't even being given a summary of tickets that were being raised. I said, well, every week or every month, we should be getting a summary of the accounts that we're managing. We should know what problems they're having and stuff, because there are opportunities there. They have a piece of hardware that's failing. Well, they're just going to go somewhere else and have that conversation with someone else.
Exactly.
If their server's on the fritz or whatever, then there's a whole project there potentially that's going to go somewhere else. Then that company is going to have the conversation about, oh, well, who's managing that? Oh, well, they haven't kept on top of this for you. Oh, and then suddenly,
and they're answering. So essentially, you're causing a pain point for someone, a problem for someone, and another company slipping in going, we fixed your pain point.
Exactly.
And they've won the customer at the end of the day.
Yeah, and that'll just erode your customer base over time. So not ideal.
There's been companies I've worked in where the IT sort of technical sides have been completely separated, and then when it comes to like marketing and sales and customer satisfaction, there's no information. You're just left in the dark. So they're like, oh, you could be making a bit of advertisement for like a newspaper or a magazine or whatever. And you're like, right, we've got a handful of products that we're going to sell, so let's push that out. And then before it goes to print, you've got the salespeople or the warehouse coming up going, we don't have that product anymore, it's sold out. And then it's the rush of, oh my God, what are we going to do? What product's going to replace that? We're going to need new copyright. We need to sort the website. We need to, it causes an utter mess, and it does affect the overall customer experience and the customer journey. If if you're an absolute mess in the background, how are you going to expect the customer to feel?
Of course. So imagine that you've got now. The scale of this depends on the scale of the business, because you might only have 3 salespeople and 1 marketing, or half the marketing functions outsourced, or whatever. So it scales according to the size of your organization. So this isn't, I can't just make a cookie cutter prescription on this, but let's just imagine you've got, 10 salespeople and 3 marketing people. You could split that up, right, into like sprint. I call them like sprint teams or sprint squads or something like that. So like that just make it nice and easy. You've got 9 salespeople, so that's three lots of 3. You could stick them in with 1 marketer each. So the squad then becomes 3 sales, 1 marketing. You might have what you'd call like, it's traditionally you call it like a scrum master or a business owner or something like that, who would sit above. Now they might be the sales director, they might be even the MD. It depends on the CEO. It depends on the size of the company. There's a CRO, depending on the structure. And then you might have some functions that are auxiliary to that. So maybe some operational person, a technical person who can kind of chime in and be like, no, this is unrealistic, or have you considered this with the functionality of what we're doing? So that sprint team or squad becomes between 4 and 6 people, roughly, depending on how you want to do it. And then what you do is you sit down, and there are tools like this. I can give people like a sprint canvas to plan it out. But you take 4 to 6 weeks, and you do almost like an MVP, a minimum viable product approach, to just being right. Let's just take 50 or 100 contacts or companies from a specific segment, and let's test this out over. And we say 6 weeks is great, because then you can do 2 per quarter in theory. And it can take that long to do follow-ups. You're not going to get someone on the first a prospecting
no.
outreach necessarily. It might take sort of 7 to 12 touches.
Yeah, because it does come down to like, do they know, like, and trust you at the end of the day? You know, if they
Yeah,
don't know you and they don't, you know, if you put
yeah,
content out they don't like, you've lost them. If you put content out that they like, then they're
yeah.
gonna be more engaged.
What I would do is I would go after and I'd say, like, right, you could either do an industry or you could do a certain stakeholder, but I like the idea of a pain point,
Yeah.
right? So you can do, so you can do that. I mean, there are techniques for scraping data like this on LinkedIn and Google and so on. But look at companies that are hiring, right? So when you look at the job vacancies, you'll look at the descriptions and they're going to mention certain keywords, and those are the things that matter to them, the things that are important to them. So it might be like like CAC, customer acquisition cost, or we want to bring in a sales. For me, it's like sales director or whatever. We want you to increase the lifetime value, LTV, of clients. So there'll be lots of different things. There'll be metrics that matter to that company that imply that maybe there's a pain point there. You can dig a bit deeper and find that out. So then you compile that, you get a list of, like I say, 50 to 100, and you think, right, the next 6 weeks, us as a squad, us as a team, right, we're going to have marketing who's going to be pumping out relevant content, relevant to this pain point, not just, here's our latest company blog about our
Read it.
CEO and how great they are, it'll be relevant, specific content that speaks to that pain point, to the world of that kind of person or something that you're going after. While at the same time, they could be providing sales with some collateral, some really good stuff like, a pitch deck, some kind of like a free, like a lead magnet. Imagine you just
like that could be like, download our latest ebook, which is filled with top 10 facts how to help you. Things like that people want value. They want quick, easy access.
And people like quick bite-sized information as well. So you could give so imagine you mock up just a landing. I mean, you could slap together a landing page in Aweber or HubSpot or whatever in like an hour. It's not really difficult, or less. It's, and stick up a lead magnet for people to download, right? So it could be the social content funnels to, that your salespeople can funnel people to if they're not ready to have a conversation straight away, or even as part of the process. And that way it's very targeted, right? So it's very specific. It's not just like, here's 10 tips for a pretty website. It's more like, you're going after people that are, maybe they're hiring a marketing manager and they're talking about attribution. They're talking about, maybe they're struggling with the dwell time, the bounce rates on their website. I mean, you know this space better than I do, so you probably know.
It could be things like, why is the fall off on mobile and things like that, and you could be like, here's why your website's not mobile responsive.
So
how to make it responsive.
Exactly. And there's a lot of ways to do it. I mean, we're getting more into like outreach.
Yes.
But, the point I'm trying to make is that you have a small cross-functional team where you've got the marketing people that are doing the social stuff, the content. They're also providing sales with the collateral that they need, that's in line with that content that's going out. So that they can be very targeted in their approach. So the leads that are coming in are going to be targeted. They build out the messaging. They build out what are the pain points. How do we tie this into what we do? And provide value every step of the way. So it's not just, oh, hey, your website sucks. Do you want to jump on a call? Here's my calendar link. It needs to be a bit more sophisticated.
And also, as you're mentioning there, like pain points. A lot of people mention niche, find your perfect client, nail that niche down. But I've had another live session where Kelly went over how niching to a client can be very paralyzing for certain businesses, because it's very hard for certain businesses to go, well, we work on this and only this for this person. That's why you've got two forms of niching, either the client or the pain point, as you said, because sometimes pain points is sort of cross industries, like mobile responsive, for instance. Let's go with websites. My website isn't mobile responsive and I'm losing clients from it. That's not exactly an industry niche problem. That is a problem that a lot of businesses everywhere end up experiencing at some point. So, it depends on how your business is structured, who you actually want to target, if you want to go down either people or pain points, because at the end of the day, you can become very, very paralyzed if you're just like, I must focus on this one person.
It starts with forming a hypothesis, I think. You think, right, we have this solution. We know these are the, there's the functionality, so it solves these problems, whatever it is. Lead capture on your website, or I'm trying to think of like website,
different things.
Something around attribution, something around ad targeting or retargeting, or something like this.
Yeah.
So the benefits, or the problems that you're solving for people. So then really, I don't know. I mean, I don't think that, because you're not niching necessarily. I mean, you kind of are and you aren't, because your business solves a specific, like let's just say you're a web designer or whatever, web developer. You've niched yourself because there's a set of services that you provide, and and then there's everything else that you don't do. You don't bake cakes. You don't do.
So your profession kind of niches you in a sense, but you could niche further into a specific type of client or a specific type of person.
Sure.
Or you can go, well, here's actually the problems that I solve for people, and then go from there.
Well, and I would argue that that's more effective, that's more powerful, and it's also a differentiator, because yes, businesses are going out, in theory, yes, well, and in practice, I suppose they are going out and they are I mean, let's face it, a lot of businesses, most businesses are not very good at outreach, not very good at their sales, right? So often the messaging, if it is quite sophisticated, it often doesn't go much further than, hey, people in your situation, your industry, your job role typically have these problems. We helped XYZ clients solve these problems. Is it worth a chat to if this is relevant, to see if we, share some ideas or whatever? And there's nothing particularly wrong with that. But there's a step further that you can go by actually validating beforehand that they do actually have those specific problems that you solve. And you can do that with the data, with the information that they put in their job postings, right? Because you know that they have a gap in the business. That's why they're bringing somebody in to fill that gap. You're still somewhat working on a hypothesis, but you're able to narrow it down. And the thing with doing these sprints is that you can niche, if you want to call it that, in a very low risk, small sample size, right?
Yeah, it's also really good because you've got the teams, so you can have each team niche to something specific, meaning you can test it, which is fantastic, which is a lot of times, yes, small businesses will struggle with that because they've not got the team, but the larger businesses that can afford a team, then, you're not really, your risk levels aren't as high because you've got, say, a team of three kind of squads, and they're going for 3 different niches, meaning you can test and see what the results are, what there's the feedback, and you can actually gain a lot of data that will then influence how you take it further.
Well, the really exciting thing, and by the way, you can do this as a small business, even if it's there's like 4 of you, right? And you're the MD and you're doing the sales yourself, and you could work with an outsourced marketer or an agency, and you could collaborate with them in this manner, and then you'll have someone internally, someone around service delivery, whatever it is you do, and you could work in that way. It doesn't have to be this big, for a big business necessarily, but the really exciting thing is that once you've tested something and you think, we're onto something here, like that sprint actually went quite well, we got X conversion, turned it, we got these number of meetings booked, it turned into this much business or this much pipeline generated, depending on the length of your sales cycle, you can start to scale it, right? So what you could start to scale, so you could do another sprint, or you could just expand it out. So instead of 50 to 100 contacts, this time you're going to go after 500. You're going to increase that sample size, and then you can start to build in certain levels of automation into the process. And I don't mean pitch slapping people on LinkedIn in the same automated message.
Yes, we've got up here the implications of this for pitch slap, copy and paste sellers. This is probably one of my favorite topics because I have some cheeky responses to some people if I get pitch slapped.
I usually pitch them back actually and offer to help them improve their outreach, but they never respond. But what I was going to say is you can, and we'll get to that stuff in a second, but if you have a successful sprint, you can scale it next time, right? So you can start, and then you could, like I say, start to build in more automation. So what the problems are, because you would have had those conversations with that initial sample of contacts, right? So then you could start using enablement tools, sequencing. You could find, even if you just use a tool like Apollo, for example, Apollo.io, it'll give you the data, the contacts that you want. It will enrich the data with contact information, and then you can build out sequences of email and calls, and you could bring in a tool like Duck Soup or Linked Helper to automate some of the LinkedIn outreach that you do as well.
Yeah.
And you can put in little snippets
Yeah.
into the curly bracket snippets into those messages, right? So it will pull in relevant information based on, like, for example, their industry, their job role, their company size, revenue, the problems that they have. And you can get quite, once you've done this a few times, you can get quite technical, because you can set like if then things, so that it's not just linear, or it's not generic snippets like
It's I
Go on.
guess you could say it's kind of like storytelling. You're essentially given like if you look at Telltale games, for instance, you make options in the game and then it takes you down different paths. So that's essentially what that kind of tech is doing, is going, right, they've said no to this, so what options do we go down? Do we go down A or B? If they say yes, then let's go down X and Z kind of thing. It's given these kind of paths for people. And I guess this kind of talk is falling into how tech will enable sales in the next decade, since we're going down that way.
Yeah. So yeah. So I mean, sales right now is really broken, and I think that there are a lot of laggards. Would you say laggards
Yes, laggards.
in business generally, of all shapes and sizes? So I mean, let's look at the conventional or the traditional way of doing this, right? You get a bunch of salespeople in, you get them doing 100, 150 calls, even 50 calls a day. Like you get them doing volume activity, right? And even if you're paying lip service to the fact that it's really about quality, you're still measuring these people on their activities, right? How many calls did they make? How many emails did they send? Things like that, right? How many meetings did they book? I spoke to a business recently that measures that one of their KPIs, they're measured on how many quotes they send out. We're incentivizing the wrong behaviors here, because what happens is, and I confirm this with them, that what happens is they have a conversation with a prospect who's like, oh, this sounds interesting, but it's just not a good time at the moment. Can we revisit this in 3 months or in our next financial year? And then the salespeople are saying, yeah, that's fine. I'll tell you what I'll do is I'll send you a proposal over anyway, so that you've got it there for reference. Like, what?
Yeah,
Sorry?
like that's just going to go into the ether of their emails. It's going to go into the void.
And look at you've got a team of people that are all doing that. How much time is that being wasted? Is there technical resource that's being pulled in to do those proposals as well? So you're wasting how many hours of combined labor each of highly paid, highly skilled labor. Bear in mind, because we're talking about technical people. We're talking about, in some cases, senior salespeople as well. And then there's the opportunity cost, because obviously they're not spending that time on generating new business. But bear in mind, it just doesn't make sense, because you're sending a proposal out to someone, like you say, it's going to sit in their inbox. And by the time it comes time to have the conversation again, even if they want to talk to you again, which they may not, because they may just be mugging you off, your commercials will have changed, your product will have changed, their needs will have changed, their business would have, or organization would have evolved from there. So there's just so much wrong with that. And what I'm saying is people are measured on the wrong thing. So we already said companies are turning over sales staff at a ridiculous rate. The average tenure is about 12 months, and in a lot of cases, it's far less than that. The majority of salespeople don't hit their targets. I heard a stat from Sandler Sales recently that said less than 1 in 10 sales managers are actually fit for their role, because they don't have the skills or the knowledge or the coaching competencies, the people skills, the soft skills to actually lead a team. Because you've got to bear in mind, there are soft skills and hard skills of sales, and especially with sales management, right? You need to be able to coach people. You need to have a good interpersonal skills, but you also, just to bring the technology into this, you need to understand and take an interest and be curious about the technology, because it is constantly developing. There are companies out there who hire people full time just to stay abreast of all the new tech that's coming out. there are new categories of tech being born on a regular basis. So what you end up with is the businesses that, you know, I mean, let's look at some of the implications of this, right? So revenue goes like this, right? It's feast and famine. They're riding this roller coaster. Sales cycles stretch out into oblivion, or into infinity rather. The deals turn into oblivious, but going forward, because prospects aren't being properly qualified. We're booking meetings for the sake of it with people that aren't a poor fit that aren't a good fit in the first place. So overall, your cost to acquire customers, your cost of sale, your CAC or whatever you want to call it, goes up. And the customers that you are signing on might not be the best fit because, again, you haven't aligned with your dev teams and everything like that. So then that causes knock-on effect because you've then got to like patch things up when it goes wrong because they use it way or whatever. So it's just not good, right? It's not good. And it's difficult because the technology and the methodology does exist to fix a lot of these issues, but I have to kind of preface it by saying that there's a bit of a psychological and a cultural and even a political issue there, political in terms of the organization, because let's say you have a team of, it doesn't really matter the size of the team. It doesn't even really matter the seniority of the role, right? I've worked in jobs where only a tiny amount of my time is actually spent on selling, on revenue generating activities. I think the stat that gets thrown around is something like 60 or 70% or more of a salesperson's time is spent on non-revenue generating activities. They're paid to generate revenue, and most of their time is spent doing other things, doing admin, doing tasks, filling in spreadsheets, forecasts, putting notes into the CRM, things that you go into pointless meetings. These are things that could be automated a lot of the time, right? And it is said that at least 70% of a salesperson's job now can be automated. So, string. What happens when you start me off now.
Got you started. I got you started.
I'm very passionate about this. So, okay. So what was I saying? So 70% of a salesperson's job can be automated. I just think if I can give you kind of a couple of examples here, right? So I won't name, I may name some specific tools, people can reach out to me or we can chat about it if you're interested, but there are, right. So imagine this as a workflow, if you like, as a sequence of tools that integrate. Now, there may be several tools that integrate, or you need to use, API or bridging apps like Zapier or whatever. But you can build out a workflow. It's really not rocket science. It's not really that different to making a Facebook account. You just need to do several of them and link them together. It's like, you can do it.
And there's plenty of videos on YouTube to help.
Absolutely. Or hit me up. Like, there's no thinly veiled sales pitch at the end of it. Like, I genuinely want to help people because it's, you can do this yourself. If you can't, obviously I can help you with it. But basically, imagine that you could get job listing data, right, that specifically says we need this person to come in to do this role to solve these problems, right? And it does, it does, because it tells you the remit of the job. So what kind of things matter to this company, right? You could pull out keywords for them and you can start to put a list of companies together. Automated, right? So you plug in the pain points, the keywords, the criteria, and then it will give you a list, right? Boom, these companies have this problem. Okay, it will split it up. So Jordan Crawford, Blueprint GTM. He has this thing that it will pull it out, and it will give you, basically give you whether it's a spreadsheet or a document, it will split it into buckets. So you have, right, this company has wants to reduce their customer acquisition costs. This customer wants to improve reduce their staff turnover rates or something like that. And it will give you buckets of different businesses. So then what you can do is you can use a different tool to enrich that data with the right contacts. So that a certain who is in charge of that problem. typically? Is it the CIO, the CTO? Is it the marketing manager? Is it this? Is it that?
Yeah.
So then you can populate that, right? So now you've got a list, you've got the contacts, you can enrich it with contact information. You haven't had to do any of this manually. So now sitting in front of you, you've got a spreadsheet that you can import straight into your CRM full of people with contact information that have problems that you solve.
Yeah.
Right. And you know it's current for them because they've got a job posting out for it at the moment. So the timing's right as well. So what if we went a step further than that? What if we auto-enrolled them? It pulls it into your CRM and pulls it into your sequencing software. So Apollo, Outreach, SalesLoft, something like this. It'll plug them into a sequence that you've already set up. So it will send them an email, it will send them a LinkedIn request, or it'll send them a message, whatever it may be. There will be some stuff that you don't want to automate. So if you want to call someone, or there may be some personalized thing, or once you get a response from them, you might want to jump in and take control of that conversation. But these automated messages can be personalized if you know what that person's world looks like from a business point of view. You don't need to go in and be like, oh, I saw you posted a picture of your cat. It was so cute. Anyway, we have this great solution. That's not personalization. That's just cringy, and it's disingenuous. It's jarring as well, because you go from talking about their football team to suddenly you're saying, like, it's just not right.
It doesn't flow. It doesn't flow correctly,
Yeah.
and
so
it makes it look automated.
Yeah, or just it makes you look a bit like, I don't know,
a plonker.
Yeah. So far, this has all been automated, right? So we've got a list of people. They're auto-enrolled into a sequence that's going to be highly relevant to them. So what else could we do? Well, let's have a look. I actually prepared some notes for this. Bear with me.
Well, yeah, there's a lot that you can do with automation. You can, you've seen the automated comments that people put out that's set up by bots and things. There's so many things that automation can do to make workflows easier. It's insane.
Well, you've got to bear in mind that all these activities are auto-logging into your CRM as well. So gone are the days where you have to copy-paste your email into your CRM, or the notes from a LinkedIn chat. Like, that can all pull into your CRM.
Yep.
So what you can do as well is you can look at who do these people engage with on LinkedIn, right? Who do they follow? And you can get notifications, so you'll know that if they comment on the post of a competitor of yours or an influencer that's relevant, and you can start to come in and have those intangible touches that as I like to call them, where you can comment on the same stuff they comment on. You can engage with their content. Now, obviously, if there's somebody who isn't very active on LinkedIn, then to some extent they're starting to qualify themselves out a little bit, but you can sort that all out. So you can prioritize based on the people that are active, that are engaged, and generally they're more social. Like, that's the social selling piece, isn't it? They're more likely to reciprocate when you reach out anyway. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot more to it than that, but you're automating in a highly targeted way. So what happens when you've got a team of 3, 5, 10, 20, 50 salespeople, and most of their day is spent doing a lot of that stuff that could be automated in a high, and it's higher quality as well, because it's based on data
data.
I mean, these people are. I genuinely believe over the next sort of 5, 10, 15 years, the bottom 10, 20, 30% of salespeople they'll be made redundant. They'll be obsolete because they're not adding value. And I'm talking about I know you want to get onto this, like the pitch slap copy pasters, right? Where it's like, hi, Eilidh, I hope you're keeping well in these troublesome, uncertain times. Anyway, I had a guy recently who he added me, and he came across very genuine. He was just like, I thought he was just going to chat or whatever. And I said something about, we've got a 5-week-old daughter here, and I mentioned something about that, and he was like, oh, I know all about da 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 da. And then he literally then had another paragraph that was like, as for us, here is a video that explains what we're all about. And it was a YouTube, linked to a YouTube video, and the dude's standing there talking for like 3 minutes straight about, I can't even remember. It was like investment of some like in financial services.
You're like, I have not expressed interest in this.
But it's interesting because that touches on, and I highly recommend Adam Mandarovich, great guy in New Zealand. He's Australian, he lives in New Zealand. You know, he has this excellent approach, which I'm really keen to take for a test spin, actually, where the video thing. So video is very powerful, absolutely. And this is another thing where people that aren't using video are really missing a trick. You know, you can. There's a right way and a wrong way to do it, but what Adam talks about is, and he's done this, and he's made it work. Where, and full credit to Adam for this. What if you could send a customized person, like a bespoke, tailored proposal to a prospect before you've ever even spoken to them?
Yeah.
How do you think that could be done?
Well, but like we were saying with the automation, the data scraping, all of that kind of stuff. You can also have like the pre-recorded clips, which get squished together and starts to create something pretty awesome. Yeah.
So imagine you could, you know, you've got these pain buckets, as I think Jordan Crawford calls them. So you know that a company is likely to have a certain set of pains, right? A certain set of problems. So you can put together small explainer videos, like even 30, 40, 60 seconds. So it doesn't have to be this long drawn. It probably shouldn't be either. Yeah. And then what Adam was doing is he'll call up the company, call up the person, and be like, you know, hey, Eilidh, I know you're probably in the middle of something and you don't have time to talk to me right now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to send you, I'm going to email you a video, or maybe on LinkedIn, you know, depending on how you want to do it, you can test that. I'm going to send you a quick video, have a look at it. And if you think it makes sense to continue this conversation, then blah, 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 you know, whatever. And he was having good success with this. I mean, we're literally talking 70, 80, 90% success rate booking a meeting with these people, because, you know, you can put together a short explainer video, whether it's one of those like an animated one, or it could be you talking on a video, you know, with like over there thing or whatever. But the make it look slick, you know, like co-brand it as well. It doesn't take a lot of work to do this. You put together the video and then you can co-brand it with their logo or their colors or whatever. It's a few minutes extra work, but it's so worth it, right? Use their language, use their pain points, their problems, their goals, their aspirations that you'll know, because you will have done all this research that was largely done by machines in the back end without you having to do all that. So there's the manual thing that you can do. And they're going to watch that. They're going to be like, wow. At the very least, they're going to be curious, right? Because no one's done that to them before. I shouldn't even be sharing this because people are going to steal.
They're all going to use it now.
Let me try it first, please. Like Adam's, but then he's sharing this anyway. So, but then what I'm saying is, so you combine that with like cross-functional teams where the whole experience is fantastic, because at the same time that you're doing that, you've got marketing putting out the content that speaks to those pain points. You've got other lead magnets that you could link them to. So you can have, you know, when you speak to somebody, you have like your primary desired outcome, which is like, I want to book a meeting with you to you know, find out more about your business, you know, whatever it is, to share some ideas with you, challenge you with some insights and whatever, to show you a different way of doing things. That's your primary outcome. But if it's not a good time, or they're just, you know, a bit sheepish on it, then you can have a secondary outcome, a fallback, right? Which is where you've got that landing page that marketing have made for you, with a lead magnet, with a guide, with a video, with a one-page document, with a canvas of some kind, you know, something to help them with that problem, to get to help them maybe complete the first one or two steps towards solving that problem. And then they'll quickly realize, oh, hang on, this is either too much work. I don't have the time. I don't have the knowledge, the skill set in-house. So let's speak to Eilidh, you know, because she can do this for me. So, and this is a whole other, I mean, I could go beyond it, you know, further than this, but this is a whole several levels above what is currently going on in the majority of businesses, where it's
Yep.
like I say, you join a company, it's like, here's a phone, here's a laptop, here's your CRM, here's
Right. See
like,
you later.
yeah, now go and make it happen. And you're like, what? You
Yeah.
know, so and and it's awful, because you come into a company, you come into a new job, any new job generally, full of enthusiasm. You want to show willingness, and a can-do attitude and all of that stuff. And it's a process of a number of months for a lot of people to realize, well, hang on, yeah, this job isn't really what I was told. The earnings, the day-to-day job, the resources available to me, the enablement isn't quite there. And then you go through like these stages of grief almost, where it's like, yeah, but maybe I can make it something. You know, I believe in
Yeah, you kind
myself.
of
I
you go
can.
through denial, and then you get angry, and then you get depressed, and
Yeah, no, that's it. You get the angry, but so yeah, you go through denial, where it's like, maybe I can resolve, I can fix this, or I can do something of my own. And I've done this before. Like, I tried running some campaign. I worked for a company that didn't have any marketing people, didn't do any so I got HubSpot, and I was doing and I brought on, I think, in a 10-week process, a 10-week period. God, my brain's going. I think I brought on about 7 or 8 clients. They were only small, sort of foot in the door deals, but
yeah,
the pipeline off the back of them was is like, pushing $250,000 of revenue, just within a couple of months.
yeah,
So, and that was just from blasting out email. That wasn't even very sophisticated what I was doing. But you think, oh, I'll do something on my own. Let me try a few things, and then that's the denial. Then the anger sets in, and you become that toxic person that's always bitching and moaning about, oh, this is crap, this company's rubbish, and then the depression, where it's like, the melancholy of like, you just become like demoralized, right?
yeah.
And then finally you accept it, and then it's like, yeah, I need to
I need to
sort
go.
out my
I can't do
CV.
this. Yeah.
And this, look, any of you that are watching this is the cycle that your people are going through. These people that you're employing, they are going through that cycle, and it's hellish. I mean, it's horrible, and I've gone through it.
No amount of free pizza and beer is going to fix that.
Exactly. Ping pong tables in the office.
No. I mean, those could turn into a deadly weapon if they're at the anger stage.
Yeah, true. Yeah. So I think what I would say as well is, yes, things are changing, things are progressing, the technology is evolving. You need to keep up. You need to pay attention, as an individual contributor, as a business owner, as just generally, like, you need to know what's going on with this stuff. It's like the fourth industrial revolution and all this stuff. I don't like it. I don't want it. And I know you're big into tech, Eilidh. I don't want the metaverse. I don't want all of that. I want to go and live on a small holding and have some animals, some chickens, and I'll be happy.
Even though I'm into tech, I would love a small holding with animals. I mean, I have
Yeah,
stables
yeah.
behind me and things.
Yeah, true, yeah. But so I'd love the simple life, but I do understand that I need to know what's going. Like, I'm a bit rubbish with like NFTs and blockchain and things. Like, I don't know anything about it, and that's a weakness of mine, because if that comes up in conversation, or there's an innovation that affects my world, I'm going to be ill prepared. And that's kind of adjacent to what I'm doing, but it could still have an impact. So what about all of the thousands and thousands and thousands of salespeople and business leaders out there that have no clue about any of the stuff I've talked about?
They're so behind.
It's directly impacting their world. So but what I would say is, Justin Michael, I left the book downstairs. Read Tech Powered Sales by Justin Michael and Tony Hughes. Amazing stuff. It will blow your mind. Those guys are like 10 years ahead of everyone else at the moment. One thing that I think Justin Michael says is that the point of technology, of automation, it's to automate and remove the mechanical I'm paraphrasing here, but basically the point of it isn't that you can do more dumb things faster. It's not that you can just scale up and automate and just do mail blasts and all that shenanigans. It's so that you can as humans, we can remove the mechanical stuff, let the machines do that, so that we can spend more time and effort on the human to human stuff. Business is, whether it's B2B, B2C, it's H2H, it's human to human, right? And these tools will enable you to gain the insights, the information, and the tools needed to really enable that human interaction. And that's why that's why we also call it social selling, because we'll do another one that's about social selling at some point. But
we'll do another one, for sure.
So sorry, I was just going to say, so finally, the more things change, the more they stay the same, right? The more it emphasizes the importance of connecting with somebody in a genuine way. It doesn't mean, oh, I noticed that you went to this school, or oh, I noticed you also like this band or something. No, it's be upfront with people. You want to have a business conversation, or you want to share some ideas, then do it. Especially if it's on LinkedIn, it's a business platform. You can bring that stuff up as well when you're talking to them. I'm not saying don't, but just be human.
Stop trying to just talk. Stop trying to like sugarcoat everything. Like, if you want to talk business, be like, yo, have this idea. What do you think? And then go from it. Anyways, we should probably wrap this up. That's almost an hour, and it has been absolutely fantastic. Some brilliant ideas shared, some brilliant advice. I know that sales is some of the hardest things to do in any business, even if you're an experienced salesperson. So thank you so much for joining us. Do you want to tell people how they can get in touch with you and get your help?
Cool. Yeah, thank you. LinkedIn is the best way to find me. Mark Bang. Just it's /Mark Bangs. I'm launching a podcast in July called The Bang on Sales Show. There's a page for it there, but you'll also see me posting content about that as well. I post every day. Look, like I say, with me, there's no agenda. There's no like thinly veiled sales pitch coming. I'm just looking to talk to people, help where I can. If it makes sense to talk further beyond that about working together, then fair enough. But I just want to spread a little love. So
yeah, brilliant. So thank you very much, and thank you to everyone who's joined us. And if you want to get in touch with Mark, please do so. He is bullshit salesperson. You're not going to slap them in the face with a pitch. Right. Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you next time.
Cheers, Ellie.